And there are a couple of questions that have come in. But before we come to you, I think there's a question for Michel. So, Michel, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So there's Maxim who would like to ask you a question. He's already put it on the chat box, right? So I'll ask Maxim to take on, please.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I hope I'm audible,
Yeah,
Michelle.
you are. Awesome.
Okay. This question was, in fact, it bothers me a lot because over here in the place where I teach, there's a lot to look back into. So the question that comes up to my mind are, number one, does mindfulness, since you spoke about mindfulness at length, and it is something that we must dwell upon, being educators, and especially when we bring it down to the children. So does mindfulness work while working against chase targets? Now I teach classes, the higher classes, and it gets really hectic, and it's not it doesn't support the system where you have enough time, where you have your creative space to think. There's creative space to analyze, the process, the entire thing. So you're it's back to back working against these targets. So that's one thing. Second thing, then, how do I cope with mindfulness when the system does not promote or permit a conducive environment, especially on ethics?
Yeah.
Then
Yes.
the third question, sir, to you would be, then what can be done when one hardly has the time to introspect on oneself, when the system is actually controlling you right through? So these are the three questions that were bothering me, and I thought, Michelle, if you could just address them, or probably give me a little insight on how you can beat this, and actually have the time to bring mindfulness into one's life.
Yes. Thank you for these questions, Maxim. I mean, this is the short answer is it's difficult. I won't lie to you. This is, what is difficult is that we have so many demands on our time that it becomes difficult to prioritize properly, right? I mean, this is to a point in our society that I was reading the other day that we have over 50% of the population in North America that doesn't even sleep enough because they spend too much time working and doing whatever else that people are doing on social media, right? So we sacrifice what is actually an essential part of our life, enough sleep to help us think clearly, and in order to do other things. And when we are in a difficult situation where the organization does not fully support that, you have a much tougher job than in a place where it is actually fully supported. Now, what I could say there is that I don't know if you're familiar with the Kaizen system of improving, changing things 1% at a time. So it's the theory of the grain of salt, right? You just make a very, very, very small change. That's what I humbly suggest to everybody. That's how I started, actually. With the first time I started meditating, it was 5 minutes a day. Okay. So, and now we have apps that allow us to actually get a random call to meditate for 1 minute. And believe it or not, this is how you slowly but surely build it. Let's say in a day, you stop for 1 minute 2 times today. This is time given to yourself. This is time that will help you already face the difficult situation you're facing, manage yourself better in the process. Then you add another minute another day. And you build this like this, and it doesn't, this picture of the person sitting quietly meditating in peace for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. This is all very nice, but that's not the daily practice that we all need to have, right? Because we don't have time. We're not monks. We don't have time to sit down 3, 4, 5 hours a day to meditate. So the secret is to sprinkle this into different small amounts all throughout the day, right? And this can address the difficulties we face in whatever situation we are. That being said, Maxim, it's challenging, but you need the commitment, not only the intention to build this, but a commitment with the action plan. Starting today, for the next 3 weeks, I will stop at least 4 times a day for 1 minute And then phase 2, I'll stop maybe 10 times a day for 1 minute, right? And you build a plan like this and find somebody to help you stay accountable to your action plan. That's how you can get things going. I hope this answers your questions, Maxim.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So thank you so much. I think it was a wonderful answer. And now we have Arun over here who has a question for David. So Arun, would you like to read it out or?
I think you can ask it.
All right, thank you. So David, I'm sure you already read it, but I'll read it out for the audience over here. Is it possible to get a brief description of a case study on the effect of coaching on both the one who is coached and the one who coaches? That's the question from Arun. David, all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Good. It's a really interesting question. I think the short answer is I don't know of one. My study is really the first study of a case, if you like. It's international school principals. They're not related to each other, so it's a case in the sense of all research to some extent is a case, and that was looking at the effect of the principals, not the effect of the coachees. There are lots and lots of studies, hundreds actually, about the effect of coaching on coachees. International ones as well, not only North American and Western, but there's quite a lot from Australia, New Zealand, that are referenced actually in my thesis. So if you download that, you can see in the bibliography quite a lot of the studies are listed in there. But looking at both coach and coachee has not really been done to my knowledge. One of the challenges with exploring coaching is it's usually a confidential process. So it's hard to explore it because you have to be able to look at something that's meant to be private, and that can be difficult. And of course, if you investigate it, then you're changing the dynamic. So it's been notoriously difficult to explore and research. Most of the studies that you'll see are not particularly empirical in nature, and I think the general view amongst the coaching world academically is that it's emerging and it's not at all as well researched as leadership or counselling or psychotherapy, for example. So we're at the beginning of that. I hope that helps.
Arun, was that good enough for you?
Yeah,
Arun,
thank you.
Thank you. David, I would just like to add to that. So do numericals actually have a role to play in coaching? That means the number of people that are being coached and the number of coaches used. How can that help?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like this. If you let's imagine that you read a biography of Nelson Mandela, really famous person, great world leader. You're going to learn something about leadership, about suffering, about patience and vision. Okay. If you only read that biography, you only see it through his eyes. So if you also read a biography by, say, Mother Teresa, or let's say Martin Luther King, or I don't know, just the Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, for example, you start to see the world in a different kind of way because you're exposing yourself to the perspectives of more than one person. So if you're coaching a person, you'll get something from that as yourself and you'll help them, and that's worth doing. Let's imagine you're coaching 10 people over the course of a year. You're regularly interacting, you're spending a lot of time listening to them. You're going to learn an awful lot about the world as they see it, and you can't help but make your own comparisons with it. Yeah, Maxim there, looking at it from the prism, if you like, as light splits, you see the world differently because you start to expose yourself to another person's view. Irrespective of whether you agree with it or not, it's just helpful to start to think about things in a different kind of way. And as Michel just mentioned about, moments of mindfulness, I think lots of us who are coaching find that that's one of the times when you actually find yourself literally sitting and listening, just listening for 20 minutes. We don't normally do that. We're just talking all the time. And so you really start to, it's not mindfulness, it's not why you do it, but it's a bit like it. In fact, it's a Hungarian guy, Michel Thibeault, that's his name, isn't it, who talks about flow, and he talks about that whole idea that actually when you just stop and listen and just reflect, and you find yourself just feeling 5 years younger, really. Well, I do anyway, because I'm so old, but I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. And I think Maxim has a question over here. He's already written that. So Maxim, can you go ahead, please? Unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi, David. Hope
Hi,
I'm
Max.
audible. Yeah, I just have one question. Now, you spoke a lot on coaches stuff and all. Pretty much, there's a lot of to take away from there. Pretty much broad. I just have one question. Now, keeping in mind the 5S, I'm sure you're aware of the Japanese area of for cleanliness and housekeeping. So we have that in education, and we have that all in in big companies and organizations. Now, I have just one thing away, just like how we have that one. Do you, through your personal experience, like we know the other things, integrity, patience, and administration and stuff and all that. Beside that, David, do we have, or through your personal experience, what would you put as under, let's say, the top 3 or the top 5 areas of to work while being principal, or taking the lead as a coach?
Yeah, great question. Let me think about that. I can do 5 very quickly. Well, the first one is not about you. That's the first thing. If you're serving as a school principal, it's not about you. It's about everyone else. Your job as a principal is not to be great, it's to enable everyone else to be great. And you're totally reliant as a school principal on your staff teaching brilliantly, because that's what helps students learn. And so it's all about the students. And in our school, we say students first, 2 words. That's our vision, really, students first. Right? Everything else flows on from that. But I think probably the 5 things that seem to me anyway to make the most importance or matter most. One is trust. Are you trustworthy, and can you trust yourself? Do you trust people? Is there a high level of trust in the organisation? The next thing is that you work with people who take the initiative, which is not their initiative. What needs to be done here for us, not what do I want to do for me. That's the second thing. I think it's about wise judgment. I think something that Michel might have mentioned, actually, these moments of, was it wisdom you called them, Michel, in your school? Are we, when we're making decisions and we start to think about what to do, are we doing it mindfully or mindlessly? Because there's like 2 options, really, isn't there? I don't mean do we sit down in a room and cross-legged and make it, but do we sit and think, well, hold on a minute, what's the best thing? Because in a year's time, what might the consequence of this be? So that's maybe the third thing. I think that the fourth thing would be that people they're active, proactive. They get on with stuff, and they don't wait to be told what to do. They see things and they make a difference. And their presence, which gets me to the 5th thing, their presence is that they make other people stronger and better around them. And if you kind of take those five things, what's at the heart of that is a sense of service, and asking that question: am I in this for what I can get out of it, or am I in this because of what I can contribute to it? And I mean, as I mentioned, my research in coaching found that actually if you contribute a lot and you serve, you learn a lot yourself. You get loads back, you probably get more back than you put in. But it's not the reason for doing it. The reason for doing it is to help others, to contribute to make, fundamentally, to make the world a better place in our thing we call a school. Sorry, it's a bit of a rambling answer, Maxim, but I hope there's something in there that you can use.
Yeah, I think it was good. Yeah, thanks, Maxim. So before we round up for today, because we are running out of time, I'd like you all to give me a one-liner. This is for both of you, Michel and David. So how do you think we can make this world a better place? So I think, David, you take on first.
Learn to coach and then start coaching people.
Wow, that's good.
Help others.
Michel, can you go ahead?
Yes, well, first of all, I'd like to say thanks. Thank you to David for this, being a coach myself. I fully embrace that. I think this is a really wise one. Learn to coach. I strongly encourage everybody to do that. Just to add something to this, really is, but it will be part of the coaching process, is know yourself. Right? Because this is the missing link most of the time, is because we don't know ourselves well enough that we're not in full power. We are on autopilot instead of being behind the driver's seat, on the driver's seat. So that's my recommendation for everybody. And if I may say one resource that, since Maxim was asking, Healthy Minds app. And the only reason I mention this is because it's totally free, from the Wisconsin University, from Richard Davidson, who's the leader, close friend of the Dalai Lama. He's done tons of research on brain development and the benefits of mindfulness. And their app, Healthy Minds, is 100% free. So strongly recommend people to check it out at least. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I think that was wonderful. There's been a lot of takeaway that we've had. So once again, I'd like to thank both our speakers of the day, David and Michel, for being so enlightening, as well as taking all the questions and giving them wonderful answers. I would also like to thank all our audience for being with us and, keeping this session so alive. Thank you so much for being with us. And tomorrow we'll meet again at 5 p.m. with a new set of speakers. So thank you. God bless you and have a good night. Thank you.